Yo, what's going on, man? Today is March the 9th, 2023. It's your boy Chris, and this is the Cashed It with Chris NBA betting show slash podcast. Presented to you guys as always by the Basketball Forever Podcast Network. I typically come on here and like to give out the early looks, man. I like to give out the early looks if we can get them before, the lines move too much. Yesterday we had a we had a line that moved after we took it on the show, which was the Atlanta Hawks and the Washington Wizards to go over the team over the total. It opened at 233.5 yesterday. It was up to 234 before it actually went live as we started doing the show, and we jumped on that number. If you jumped on it with me, you cashed. If you waited a little bit later, you cashed too, but it was because of some late free throws. But that total did go up and over. So want to know on official plays that I gave out on Cashed It with Chris. I also ended up adding Oklahoma City Thunder and Phoenix to go over the 233.5 as well. And it finished at a hook last night, man. It's unfortunate that it finished at a hook because they actually had scored they didn't score in the last 2 minutes of the game. So that's unfortunate. Just clinks, no free throws, no layups, no nothing, just a whole bunch of clinks. So knew that one probably wasn't going to hit. I didn't have confidence in it hitting once I saw KD slip. Now, of course, I had put the bet in before. You guys always have the option to, cash out or buy back, to try to make sure that you're profitable in that spot. I didn't. I let it ride. And it didn't look good in the first half, but it looked really good in the third quarter. And then, Oklahoma City, I think they scored something like 40 points in the second half, just ran out of gas towards the end of the game. And the benches came in and just kind of clanked all the shots. So 1-1 day overall yesterday. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting the like button for me, if you guys can, I'm going to jump into the slate for today. Also, don't forget to check out the podcast. Just, search whatever podcast platform that you're typically listening on. Search for Cashed It with Chris. Search for Crispy Capping with two P's, two N's, and the podcast should come up. And leave me a 5-star review over there. And let's jump into the games. I got 3 games I want to go through. It'll be pretty quick. It's not the greatest card today. It's only 6 games on the board, but I do want to talk about a few of the games. So let's get into it. And what up to the chat, man? I see my guy Prop God in here. What up, Anthony? Derek here with me, rocking with me this morning early, like he always do. Free minds. I appreciate y'all, man. Appreciate y'all for sure. Let's get into the games for today, though. So we got first game up. I want to go to this Detroit and Chicago and Charlotte game. So Charlotte catching 3 points on the road. No, I'm sorry. Charlotte laying 3 points on the road. Spreading this one is moving. It opened at 2.5. It's up to 3, 3.5 on DraftKings as well. If you want Charlotte today, play them now. I do anticipate that this line is gonna move. Detroit is not really trying to win games, and you look at both of these teams just in recent form. Charlotte is the better team, and they're actually out here still trying to win games. We know that they're coming off a huge win as a double-digit underdog at Madison Square Garden, and Detroit is still going to be with that. They're still going to be down all of their players. Like I don't know if you guys saw the reports, but they're talking about shedding Bojan Bogdanovic down for the rest of the season. And I gave you guys the numbers when Bogdanovic isn't in. They're 0-7 straight up, 1-6 against the spread. And the only cover that they got was against the Washington Wizards in their most recent game. Charlotte is a really solid defensive team. They actually rank number 1 defensively post All-Star break in a 7-game sample. So they've been able to limit their opponents. They also have just a lot more offense than this Detroit team does as well. When you think about guys like Terry Rozier, when you think about guys like Gordon Hayward, Kelly Oubre, and they got big guys like Richards and Mark Williams. So I mean, Charlotte is the much better team. I do anticipate this line to move. So if you want the Charlotte Hornets, play them now. I haven't played them yet, but I'm probably gonna put a little something on Charlotte to win this game by at least a possession. I don't think that it's gonna come down to the last possession. But more so importantly, the total in this game, you see it right now. Opened at 226. It looks like it's up to 226.5, just kind of depending on what book you're at. But it's around that range, and I still like the under in this spot. And here's the quick breakdown for why, and then I'm gonna get on to the next game. So you look at these teams. They first and foremost, both teams have struggled to score. We know that the LaMelo's not there for Charlotte, which they've really been able. If they're going to stay in games, it's typically because of their defense. and this is anticipated. This is a game they're anticipated to win by, like I said, by possession or two possessions when the line goes up to 3.5. But both of these teams ranked 29th and 30th post All-Star break. Big injury implications on the Detroit side. Like I said, it's not just Bogdanovich. They're shutting down a lot of guys. Not even necessarily shutting them down, but they're just not playing. Hamidou Diallo off the bench. Alex Burke hasn't recently been playing either. So I would definitely be looking towards some Jaden Ivey props in this game. He is coming off, I think, a 26-12 game against the Washington Wizards. But I'm not looking to take a lot of overs. He's just going to have the opportunity. I think Killian Hayes might be listed as questionable in this one. He could potentially return, but I like the under, man. Detroit, Charlotte, best defensive team post All-Star break. Like I said, Detroit is actually ranked 15th, so they've been they actually just kind of slid a little bit, but their defense has been solid post All-Star break as well. And here's a few quick trends. Detroit is 5-2 to the under post All-Star break, averaging about 215 points in their games combined. 215. You look at Charlotte, they're 7-0 to the under post All-Star break without LaMelo, and their games are averaging about 213 points. So I think it's still some meat on the bone. Both of these teams play a pretty slow pace, and I think Charlotte wins the game, and I think the under cashes as well, under 226.5. I do expect that number to drop. So if you like it, go ahead and jump in on it now. Matter of fact, I need to make sure I play it now. That is going to be the best bet for the show as well. Charlotte, Detroit, under 226.5. Still, the 226 number is still available. I expect that number to drop throughout the day. So that's what I'm giving you guys as the best bet of the day for the morning show. Let me just check and see so I still got a 226.5, and I'm playing it because I feel like the lines be shifting in the morning, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I play the under 226.5. I'm actually gonna play it right now on a couple different sports books, but I'm locking that one in because I don't want to get the worst of the number. Y'all know how I feel about getting the worst of the number. So I just played it on one book, and I'll play it again on another one in just a second. But so I got a 226 on one book. I also got a 226.5 on another book. So I'm gonna play both of them, the 226 and the 226.5. I think it's a low scoring game. You guys, if you want to ride with me, let's go. I also think Detroit wins the game. I'm sorry, I think Charlotte wins the game and covers the 3.5 as well, but I didn't play that. Next game up. Talk about this one really quickly. I want to go to the Houston and Indiana game. So Houston Rockets in this one in Indiana, first road game after a couple home games in a row. They're coming off getting smacked up against the Brooklyn Nets. And now they're without Kevin Porter Jr. in this one, who looks like he has a thigh injury, I think. KPJ already ruled out with a thigh injury. And without him, since the All-Star break, they are 0-3 straight up and against the spread, losing by an average of 17 points, which is why you see such a big spread. The Indiana Pacers, this is the biggest number that they've been laying all year at home. They're typically not, double-digit favorites or even 9-point favorites. The Indiana Pacers on the opposite side, this team has been scoring. I don't know if people have been paying attention to it, but they have an elite offense post All-Star break. A couple of different things I looked at. So I looked at the Pacers. They're coming off a loss to the Philadelphia 76ers where they went crazy in that game. That game time for about 280 points, 275 points, I want to say. You look at this Pacers team, they are 5-1 to the over on their team total post All-Star break. The only game that went under was a game against the San Antonio Spurs, and that was the game that Halliburton actually didn't play in. And that offense looked desperate for Halliburton. I don't even think they scored 100 points in the game. I think they finished at right at 99. They're averaging 130 points across those 5 games with Halliburton post All-Star break. 130 points per game, which is why you see such an inflated line and inflated total here. You also look at this Pacers team in the first half of those games, they're averaging 64 points in the first half. So I couldn't talk anybody off looking at a first half team total over. You look at the post All-Star break for the Rockets in comparison. They had 2 games against the Spurs, which I don't really feel like you can count those games. They gave up 110 points in both of those games. They won both of those games as well. But if you take those 2 games out where they gave up those 110 points to the San Antonio Spurs, They're 0-5 straight up and against the spread, losing by an average of 18 points, allowing 122 points per games in those spots. And they're allowing 63 first half points. So I haven't played anything in this game, but if I'm playing anything, I'm looking towards probably a team total over for the Houston Rockets. But I'm sorry, a team total over for the Indiana Pacers. I just feel like they play with pace. Houston typically plays, they're not the fastest team, but they get the ball up and down. So I know Indiana, their team total is 123 and a half. To me, that 122 and a half, to me, that feels obtainable. I don't know if the Houston Rockets score 113 points. That seems like a lot of points on the road without one of your key players. So not a game that I've dug too deep into, but I did want to share, just those numbers with you guys. I'm a little on the fence, almost, I think it's a tad bit crazy to think about laying 10 points with the Indiana Pacers, but if I'm playing this game, I think that's the only way I'm playing it. And that's why I want to kind of pivot towards the team total and not necessarily look at the the spread. So yeah, it's interesting, man. I haven't really gotten anything there. Next game up, and last game I want to talk about really quickly is the Golden State and the Memphis game. So Golden State is coming in this game off a loss. They lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder the other day. They lost that game in Oklahoma City. We all thought that Golden State had figured it out defensively until you go to OKC and you just get mollywopped in a lot of different ways. But specifically on the defensive end, just couldn't get a stop. Defense was just kind of bleeding throughout the game. And you saw OKC just kind of run it up, did whatever it is that they wanted in that game. They got to wherever it was on the floor that they wanted. SGA, Giddey, I think Giddey had double-digit assists. I know Giddey had double-digit assists. Now you get them facing this Memphis team. Memphis has been struggling lately. This team is going through a lot of different things. It's also a TNT game as well. Memphis is going through a lot of different things, coming off the loss to the Lakers, but they also lost to the Clippers before that. They lost in Denver before that. And, they really, really kind of, struggled to score. They did score 129 against the Clippers. I think that was a bit of an outlier. They scored 97 points in Denver. They scored 103 points in LA against the Lakers. And now you get this Golden State team in here that's coming in. And the total's pretty high in this one. I think the total is a tad bit too high. It's 235 and a half. We know that Golden State's giving it up on the defensive end. But for some reason, it just kind of feels like this game's supposed to go under in my estimation. You get in my estimation, the Memphis Grizzlies won't be able to score as much as they typically do at home. We know their home road splits are night and day. Memphis plays well at home. They struggle on the road. Two kind of desperate teams right now. Memphis, if they lose this game and the Sacramento Kings win tonight against the New York Knicks, I'm not sure what that does in the standings, but I know it makes it a tad bit closer. And Memphis still has enough games left in the season where they could be passed up by the Sacramento Kings, and they could kind of flip flop that number two position. So let me just check that real quick. Standing. So Western Conference. Yeah, they're actually tied right now. I think Sacramento owns the tiebreaker over Memphis and already listed as second. So Memphis has already dropped to third. Golden State is in that 5 to 12 kind of range. So every win for them is super important. We know that they struggle on the road. Golden State is just 5-2 straight up and 1-6 against the spread as road favorites with a total of 237 or less. Also, they're 5-2 to the over in that spot. Very, very conflicting because Memphis feels like they should, kind of slow down the pace in this game. Golden State is 11-3 to the over when they're a road favorite. They just don't play defense, but I feel like 235 and a half points is a tad bit too much for me just to automatically feel like I want to play the over. It feels like to me Golden State should be able to, figure it out defensively. Memphis shouldn't be able to get whatever it is that they want against this team, but that's hard to really put your money behind because Golden State's defense has been so bad, specifically on the road this season. I think you kind of got to wash away that last game against the Oklahoma City Thunder if you're thinking about playing the under in this game. I think another way you could play this game is you just look at Tyus Jones. His props will probably be in play for this one, just because the Memphis Grizzlies will rely on him a lot in this game. Golden State really struggle against point guards. I just mentioned Josh Giddey. I think he finished with 17 assists in his last game. Memphis is going to want to get up for this game. They haven't won a game since the Ja Morant fiasco has taken place, which was actually last Friday. So that's coming up on a week, for them not having to win a game. Desperate to get back home. I don't want to play a side in this one quite yet. I feel like I got to do a little more research and a little more digging. Golden State is laying 2 in this game. It does feel like they, have more with Steph and Clay and Draymond, and also coming off a win. But both of these teams should be motivated, and that's one of the reasons why I like the under 235. You got Golden State coming off a loss against the Thunder as a 4-point favorite, and then you also got the Memphis Grizzlies, who were favorite against the Lakers. We cashed on a +2 2 days ago for them to win that game. So to me, it just kind of feels like a defensive-oriented game. If Memphis is going to keep this game close, it will be because of their defense, in my estimation, because they're missing a lot on the offensive end when you subtract everybody that's just kind of playing right now. So another game I got to do a little more work on, but I do lean towards the under. And I right now I just really don't want to pick a side. I feel like I got more work to do. So and then doubling back real quick, I did want to mention in the Houston and Indiana game, Houston's 3-point defense has been some of the worst 3-point defense we've seen throughout the years of basketball. They just cannot guard the 3-point line. So looking at Buddy Hield threes, I think are absolutely in play. His 3-point prop should be sitting at 3.5. He could potentially hit 6 threes tonight in this game, especially if Houston tries to run and push the pace like the Indiana Pacers have been playing with. He could absolutely go off. And then also in the first game that I talked about, Charlotte and Detroit, I talked about Jay Navi props, and I didn't play anything. All of these are just leans right now. I got a little more digging to do. But looking at Gordon Hayward is someone that's absolutely been, balling. This dude is coming off a game against the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden where he had 23, 9, and 8. That's good for 40 points, rebounds, and assists. His line today is sitting at 26.5. And to me, it just kind of feels like he's the guy that has to pick it up the most. He's the guy that, becomes the secondary point guard. Terry Rozier will be there, but a lot of that offense has been running through Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward also has a 7-assist game against the Orlando Magic back on the last week on the 3rd, where he had 17, 7, and 1. And 1 rebound is kind of an outlier against the Orlando Magic as well. But he's gone over this line of 26.5. You can get 26.5 should be available on most books. He's gone over this line just one game, but he's come really, really close. You look at the Detroit team; they won't have a lot of guys that can slow him down. So I look for Gordon Hayward to kind of keep it up today. And if I'm playing anything in that game, then I'm looking towards his props. So that's what I got for you guys. Best bet of the day is the Charlotte and Detroit game to go under the 226.5. Probably gonna get there with Charlotte. Laying at 3 as well. Definitely get that line before it moves if you guys want it. Charlotte, to me, it feels like a game. Charlotte isn't tanking as much as Detroit. Charlotte's still actually trying to win games. To me, I know it's not the greatest spot on the, it's not the greatest card actually, but it's not the greatest spot. As far as the Knicks and the Sacramento Kings game go, I want to see what happens with Brunson. I think that game goes over the total. But we don't have a lot in that game. We know that the Sacramento Kings can't stop anybody. They don't even try to play too much defense at all, but they do try to outscore you. I just need Brunson in if I want to take the Knicks in that spot. I also don't really feel like I need Brunson in as much if I want to, just play the over. So I will be looking towards the over in that game. The total is 235, and I like that game to go over the 235. Sacramento can score. The Knicks are coming off a game where, they just kind of laid an egg against the Charlotte Hornets. So I do anticipate that game to go over the total of 235. I think it's opening right now at most books. A lot of books didn't have it last night. And the spread is coming down in favor of the New York Knicks. It opened at 3.5. Well, opened at 4. It's down to 3.5 on most books. There is some 4s out there as well. But I like the Knicks in that spot and the bounce back spot. I also like Sacramento and the New York Knicks to go over the 235. So I'll have more on those games later on today. But it's only a 6-game card today, and that's what I got for you guys. So hit the like button for me if you guys wouldn't mind. Let's see what y'all saying in the chat real quick. Everybody quiet when the Clippers get it done. Oh yeah, people don't want to talk about it. Scary Terry, prop guy said he on Scary Terry because we in shock when the Clips win. They only got 2 wins since Westbrook. That's a fact. I can't figure the Clippers out, bro. Play Jared Allen 9 rebounds, Hawks money line, and Siakam 20+ points. Okay. Books may have disrespected the Clips with that line. I seen -2.5. Sacramento terrible playing off of rest, looking towards the Kings today. That's the way I'd be looking as well. The Knicks today. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's the way I'd be looking as well. Still got a little more work to do on that game. But I do lean Knicks. I do lean over as well. Just haven't gotten there yet. But best bet of the day, you guys see it at the bottom. Charlotte, Detroit, under 226.5. Yesterday we cashed on the over. Today, let's get it done on the under, man. Best of luck to you guys in all your action. Back at 5:30 Eastern time for the Crispy Cap and NBA show as always. Best of luck to you guys today. I'm out.